Alright, hello everyone and welcome to WWE Discussion. I'm your host and WWE enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Monday Night Raw, July 3rd, 2023 episode. So as you can see, this is a different kind of episode, or maybe not different kind of episode, but like a different presentation on what is done before. You see the episode 1. I thought about maybe just keeping, there was the debate of do I keep going and just make this episode 398, or do I, with this new change in format, do I just simply start over at 1 and build my way back up from there? And ultimately, as you can see, I made a decision. It's a new presentation of the WWE discussion, and you'll see the same thing for NFL discussion when that returns later this year. You'll see the same thing for AEW discussion as well. So we're kind of starting all over, and this is episode 1 of the new version of WWE discussion. So and speaking of WWE, they are ramping up for the summer, and Raw is currently riding the energy brought by that London crowd and Money in the Bank, and riding that energy right into Baltimore, Maryland. And this was an exciting episode of Raw, carried by the Judgment Day. You saw Dominic Mysterio challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, and also some renewed tension within the group. Ripley put on a great title defense against Natalya. Shayna Baszler making a statement at the expense of Ronda Rousey. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville got themselves a tag team title match against Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. But even though they won the match, Katana Jansen, Kane Carter certainly stood out more in that match. So Monday's show set the stage for some of the most important stories of the summer, as Raw made the most of its 3 hours. So we're going to go ahead and get into the show itself, and we're going to start with, well, assuming this thing wants to work. There we go. I guess the arrow keys don't want to work, but we'll start with this question right here. Should the Judgment Day turn on Finn Bálor, and would that make them a more dominant stable if they did just that? So the Judgment Day is on the verge of taking over Monday Night Raw if they haven't already. Rhea Ripley, currently the Women's World Champion. Damian Priest, senior Money in the Bank, and Dominic Mysterio, well, he continues to be the most hated bad guy in the business. So, and then that just leaves Finn Balor, who is the most decorated member of the group, yes, but at the moment he's got nothing going for him. He got outmatched by Rollins at Money in the Bank, and currently doesn't have a clear direction going forward. A rematch at SummerSlam doesn't really have that much appeal. It'd kind of be a lazy thing for WWE to do. And I think really the better thing to do is to kind of change the dynamic of the Judgment Day by having Finn leave the group. However that may happen, he just needs to leave the group, or maybe not leaves, but just leaves the group. The Bloodline is currently no more, so that certainly leaves a hole for the Judgment Day that they can most certainly fill, and take that mantle as the dominant faction in WWE. But Balor might not be able to take them there as their leader. Priest, however, as their leader, could do just that. He's an alpha male type, and as you can kind of see in his interactions with Finn Balor, he doesn't work at his best in contest with another man who is gunning for his spot. Now, a breakup within the Judgment Day where Finn Balor leaves, it could also allow him to allow him to pair with JD McDonough. I don't really see him as a replacement for Balor within the Judgment Day. I see him more as an ally for Finn Balor, somebody that Balor could turn to, as you might remember or might recall. Balor was seen backstage talking with JD McDonough. WWE kind of gone away for that, but maybe they're going to go back to that. So that would make more sense if Balor was to pair up with JD McDonough, and maybe that sets up something for SummerSlam where you have McDonough and Balor versus Priest and Mysterio. And if Balor does leave, it certainly does set the Judgment Day up to add another member. Maybe they add another female member to kind of help Rhea Ripley deal with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, who she certainly seems to be having some issues with at the moment. Now we move on to moving on from that. Will Shayna Baszler be a top woman in WWE by beating Ronda Rousey? So we know this now. This match hasn't been announced for SummerSlam, but I think we all know by now this is going to be the match. This is going to be a match at SummerSlam. And Ronda Rousey, name-wise, certainly the most well-known of the MMA four horsewomen, but really the honor should go to Shayna Baszler in terms of who is going to be the most successful out of the four. Rousey has had more success in higher-profile matches, yes, but Baszler has been a consistently good technical wrestler who can compete at any level. There was that report that came out from Dave Meltzer that the plan was always for Rousey to feud with Baszler, but they kind of had to rush the story forward a bit because Rousey has a upcoming hard out in her contract. So there's limited time left for Rousey and Baszler to do this feud. And ultimately, the focus of this feud should be Baszler putting on her best performance while Rousey putting on her best performance while elevating Baszler. The Queen of Spades can be a title contender for the rest of her career if she dominates Rousey on the way out. And truth be told, she should be in that spotlight again. So I guess we'll just see how that one plays out. It was off to a good start though. Baszler cut a great promo to start the show. Are Katana Chance and Kayden Carter the team to save the women's tag team division? Now, as you all know, the women's tag team division is the worst division in WWE, and every week WWE seemingly makes a case as to why the women's tag team title should be retired, and why it's not really the right thing, but more like the necessary thing to just give up on it. So on Monday Night Raw, there was a tag team turmoil match to set up the next challengers for Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan, and Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville would win that match and build some much needed momentum for that team. Doing so against teams with no build, however, in that turmoil match, it was another team that stood out at the end of the match, and that was Chance and Carter, pulling out a great spot in which Chance would hit Green with a head scissors takedown off the shoulders of Carter. This young duo has continued to impress and continues to bring a level of excitement to what is WWE's worst division that seemingly nobody else has been able to. Morgan and Rodriguez are probably short-term champions, with Rodriguez seemingly more likely to go after Rhea Ripley rather than get a long title run in the women's tag team division. And what makes Chance and Carter special is that they are fully committed to the division. They have tagged together for years, waiting for a big break. They can continue to outperform their position on the card. When Chance and Carter capture the women's tag team championships, it seems like it's a matter of when, not if. They could rewrite the record books as title holders in the way they once did with the now retired NXT women's tag team championships. Natalya deserves better. I think we can all agree on that. After Night of Champions, Ripley was awaiting her next challenger, and surprisingly, that challenger would be Natalya, the woman that she would beat in just over a minute at Night of Champions. So the Queen of Hearts would push Ripley in what was a physical and intense battle, and Ripley, I would say she hasn't been challenged like that since she competed against Flair at WrestleMania. Now, this match showed the value of Ripley as one of the best women's wrestlers in WWE right now, but it also showed how much Natalya can still bring to the company. Now, she is 41 years old and her best days are past her, yes, but she showed in this match that she can still bring it. And the women's division, it needs depth, and Natalya brings that and more. She's a valuable veteran who can push the current and next generation to greater heights. So, in conclusion, this week's show, it had things to do. I needed to break down what happened to Money in the Bank, and then began to build up to SummerSlam, which they certainly did start at Money in the Bank, but continuing on with that, and it did both of those things pretty well. Some weak points, sure. The six-person mixed tag team match was fun. Maxine Dupree and Alpha Academy, very much over. That was a fun match to watch. The best thing was probably the best match on the show, probably that Women's World Championship match between Natalya and Ripley. I was kind of curious how that was going to be booked. It was booked pretty well. The boat looked as good in the ring as she has in quite some time, but ultimately, it's still Ripley's time as champion. So credit to Natty for doing a good job making the champion look strong. Also, Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar 3. That was a good way to kick off the show. The match is not official, but we all know it's going to happen. And as a whole, I talked about this being an exciting episode, and it was. Were there some flaws? Sure. But not everything's going to be a hit. And truth be told, there was more to like than to dislike on this episode of Monday Night Raw. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of WWE Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.